Okay, I'll presume that you have looked at least briefly at the chart, the changing proportion of global affluence in North America. The chart shows the relatively small but notable advance towards economic prominence in North America from the year 1800 to 1900, the first two circles. Not a big difference in size, and not a big difference in the blue portion that represents North American, the percentage of global affluence controlled and owned within North America. Now that is followed by this from 1900 to 2000, quite a notable thing with the big half blue circle for the year 2000. That's the huge advance from 1900 to 2000 toward uniquely disproportionate affluence, basically the rise to superpower status or global economic dominance of the North American or the American empire. So the graphics are not statistically precise nor even close approximations, but only extremely rough estimates for illustrative purposes. However, I do not expect the basic trend would be disputed by anyone that from 1800 to 1900 there was some increase in the global affluence within North America, and from 1900 to the year 2000 an enormous increase. In fact, this chart really is, now that I think about it, somewhat mislabeled. It's really about the United States, not about Canada or any other part of the North American continent. The data of 6% of the world's population is for the United States, so I just happened to title it North America, but it's about the U.S. Though, to a certain extent, it applies to Canada, just not nearly as dramatically. Alright, so the simple point of the chart is that North America went from being an emerging market to a developing market to a well-developed market, and finally to the leading regional superpower in the world. In other words, the percentage of the world's resources controlled and owned by the North American population has ballooned in recent centuries, especially since the rise of the oil industry in Texas as early as the 1860s. In contrast, the percentage of the world's population that inhabits North America has not grown from 6% to 50%. It has not changed very much at all, really, in the last few centuries. It has changed, but as a percentage of total global population, it's not changed much. So North America went from global distinction in the export of agricultural commodities around 1800, like tobacco and cotton, to global leadership in fuel extraction and refining, like coal and oil, by 1900, and then to global dominance economically and militarily in things like the technology of war, nuclear missiles, satellite networks, communication satellite networks, and the internet, and so on. But what is the future of this trend? The trend toward a greater and greater portion of global affluence being controlled by North Americans may have already ended within the last few years. In fact, as North America has been gaining in global affluence, it has also come to lead the world in borrowing, indebtedness. While it took centuries for the singular economic dominance of the North American global empire to develop, the recent rise to 50% of global affluence for North Americans could very quickly fall to 30% or even 10%, as has been the case for many prior empires of singular global dominance. And frankly, I don't know of, I think of, for instance, the Holy Roman Empire, or the Ottoman Empire. I could give a short list, but British Empire, of course. There's really nothing comparable to what we have today in human history, with the concentration of affluence, not just in North America, but in fact within certain owners that mostly are North American. Of course, some are European and some are not. Some are Saudi Arabian and so on. But a real, just amazing concentration of power and affluence in the North American continent population, and in particular within certain segments of that population. So with that as a background, I wanted to, we were talking about the fact that the trend may have ended. So let's look at another prominent country that came to prominence economically in the 20th century, and that is Japan, that I picture there. The last 30 years of the price of the Japanese stock index, which fell by 2/3 from late 1989 to 1992, and then continued to fall. So I'll pause here to let you look at that chart.